Good evening. This is the January 4th, 2022 open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission being conducted remotely, consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until April 1st, 2022. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to the Commission prior to the meeting for review, and they should also all be up on the CONCOM website. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak, and if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention to do so after you've been called. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motion. For all attendees except commission members, please remember to mute your computer or your phone when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please remember to introduce yourself and your address so that, again, for accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any responses, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name. If commission members wish to engage with other commission members, let's do it reasonably so we don't talk all over each other. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. Samantha, the conservation agent, will seek questions and comments through the raise hand function in Zoom. To do so is to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery, and click on the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participant button. A list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of this partition area, you will see an option to click on the raise hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the list. For telephone participants, to raise your hand, hit *9. We'll then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hand in the order in which they have raised them. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name or address and then ask a question or make their comment. I will afford the applicant or participant or their representative the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you've been given the floor for your question. We'll then continue down the list of people as more are needed. Please note that the chat feature is not part of the official record and should not be utilized during the meeting. Anyone wishing to address the commission must do so through their video or audio connection. The chat feature is intended only for the use of the commission as agent and only for the purpose of communicating with individuals in the event of a disruption. Please also note that everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would at an in-person meeting. Any disruptions will result in removal of the disruptor to the waiting room where you will receive a direct chat message from Samantha regarding the disruptive behavior. Once acknowledged, Samantha will readmit you to the meeting. Any further disruption will result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. That's always fun. Right, so on to the agenda. I believe we have some minutes.
Yes, should be the minutes from December 21st.
Yep, December 21st. Who had a chance to look at those?
I will need to abstain, Brian, because I did not attend the 20.
I was able to read them. They look fine.
Say again, Dan?
I thought they looked very good.
Cool. And I see another name. Good. And Frank, more nodding. Okay. We got a lot of nodding. People consent.
Motion to
Go
accept.
ahead, Pete. You got a motion? Beautiful. All right. Roll call. What are we doing here? Brad,
Abstain.
Ben,
Abstain.
Dan,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Frank, sorry, one out of alphabetical.
I'm here too by phone, Mary.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I didn't know that was you. I apologize. I kept muting you.
I'm good with
All
the
right.
minutes too.
Beautiful. And I will also vote in the affirmative. So that passes. Next up, public hearings. Christina Hoffman, 21 Marsh Avenue. Sam, do we still not have a DEP number?
We got one today, actually. It is 1375.
Beautiful. 050-1375. A notice of intent for the installation of a patio, driveway resurfacing, and landscaping improvements. All right. So,
Brian, I am going to recuse myself from this one.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
So,
My name is, should I jump in there? Great.
yeah, absolutely. I was just looking for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission members. My name is Christina Hoffman. This is Bill Hoffman behind me as well. Oh, good. Are you sharing your screen, Samantha? Super.
Yes.
So I'm not sure how we turn these in, but we're happy to drop them off. But we have the green cards, and and so we have the confirmation of our abutter notifications and the tear sheet of our public notice. So if you need us to drop those off, please let us know, and we're happy to do that.
Yep. If you could actually drop those off at my office, that would be excellent.
Okay. No problem. We will take care of that. So our house sits at 21 Marsh Avenue, which is right on the Parker River. And our house is nestled down by the river itself. So this is an existing plan, and it shows our house is the structure in the middle of the drawing. And to the right side, there's another structure, and that is our 3-car garage with an accessory apartment above it. And there's a dashed line that shows an existing driveway that comes from the south and works its way up towards the house. And there's a parking area to the left, and then the driveway curves around to the right over to the garage bays, the garage door bays. And so on either side of the house is maintained lawn on either side. And what we are proposing to do, you would be so kind, Sam, as to go over to the landscape concept plan, which is attachment 2. We're basically proposing to convert the maintained lawn that's on the right side of the house. We want to add a patio there, a natural stone patio with some plantings there as well, and some stone steps that go to, or I guess I should say stepping stones that would go to the house. And entrance to the house also, we were going to add some stone there as well. And the driveway itself, actually on the other side of the driveway, so on the south side of the driveway, there's some additional stones, and that is to replace some temporary wooden steps that are there, because the entrance into the apartment actually is on that south side of the garage structure. So we were going to add some stone steps to get yourself up to the door. And then the existing driveway, we are proposing to resurface that, and we'd like to move it a smidge further away from the river, and basically that's away from the front door of the house. The existing driveway goes right next to the front step, and it's actually quite dangerous when you back out of the garage and you have to make this angle and you are super close to the front door. So we are proposing to shift the driveway by several feet, just the portion that's in front of the house, and then ultimately pave the driveway, across the area that is shown here. So all the work is located, in maintained lawn and existing driveway. And there's a lot of exposed bedrock scattered throughout the property as well. So that's in a nutshell what we're proposing: patio and driveway, and then a fair amount of landscaping. Yep. And so during, our primary goal here is to do the project as quickly as possible, because we know that we're next to the river, and also to install sediment controls during the construction. We're definitely going to be moving some dirt around as we put in the patio and the plantings. And so we are proposing to put straw wattles all along the perimeter. So between the river and the areas that are disturbed, we would install straw wattles. They would be staked in and butted up against each other and maintained during the project. And then our goal is to get everything stabilized as quickly as possible at the end. And we wouldn't remove them until everything was stabilized.
Okay. You're cutting in and out, so I'm presuming that was the end of it.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yes. So that is the summary of the project that we're proposing. Happy to answer any.
Thank you. So let's go around the commission. Brad, why don't you start?
I don't have any questions. It looks like a good plan.
Okay. Ben?
Ben's abstained.
Oh, yeah, right. Habit. Thank you. Frank?
I'm just curious what the paving will be. Will it be hot top? Resurfacing.
Yeah. So right now we're considering putting on, an asphalt hot top. That's our plan. We might put like a row of decorative pavers of the garage itself, but the rest of it is anticipated with asphalt.
And so what's the existing driveway? What's the surface of the existing driveway?
Yeah, it's hard packed gravel.
So you're replacing a pervious surface with an impervious surface.
Yes.
Okay, you good, Frank?
Yes.
Okay. Daniel?
Do we have a plot plan? How far is the activity from the river? I mean, it's probably in the riverfront area, but I'm not sure.
Yes. Yep, it is within the riverfront area. So, if you zoom in, right where your cursor is, if you actually move your cursor, the river starts. That is a slope there. The maintained lawn is the flat area, and then it goes down to the slope. Ultimately ends at Salt Marsh, so it's very close to the river, and it's in the riverfront area.
Yeah, I don't know what measures we could take to, secure, I think you've got erosion control covered, although it is not, I don't believe it's shown on the plan. That, the paving the driveway might cause some discomfort, but there may be ways around that with filter strips on the edge to prevent runoff from accelerating through the area there. That about does it for me, I guess.
Okay. Mary?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're okay.
Okay, so, I just wanted to, and I provided some comments to Samantha earlier today because I knew I wasn't going to be able to be available on screen, but my only concern is that the plans that I viewed anyway, there was an existing conditions plan, and then there's a landscape sketch, but the two of them aren't combined into a single site plan, so we don't know where the work is directly on the existing conditions plan, although you can sort of estimate it, but the existing conditions plan doesn't show all of the resource areas either. So it doesn't show the land subject to coastal storm flowage, and it doesn't show the top of coastal bank, which is, so I think some of the work is actually right on or immediately adjacent to the top of the coastal bank, which is also another resource we need to protect. So I guess I don't have any objection in principle to what is being proposed. I just think that in order to make a record of what's being proposed and have it be able to write an order of conditions and have a certificate of compliance, if other people are on the board at the time that happens, you know, we need to have a plan that shows the work on the topographic plan with all of the resource areas and buffer zones shown. So that was my only comment.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And Peter.
Thanks. So I'm just trying to visualize this from Google Earth, and I think I have it because this is the east property from where we were of yesterday to the drives. And as I'm looking at that, are there some big trees that are visually that are going to be taken out of the equation here? And then there's a dock that runs off the side. Am I looking at the right property?
Yes, I would think so, I guess, but not being able to see your screen. There are definitely trees around the property, although the storm back in October took down 2 of them that are fairly close to the house. But I think you're probably on the right path because we are immediately east of, or actually we're a couple of parcels east. We're maybe 1 to the 3rd parcel to the east of the other property that has a notice of intent this evening.
Okay, great. So then I think I have the visual. But that great big, it looks like it's a single large tree. Is that what came down in between the house and the barn or the carriage house?
So the tree that is shown on the plan that's on the screen right now, it says it's an 18-inch triple. Is that the one that you're looking at in between the house and the garage?
Yeah, I just see a massive tree from Google Earth, so that must be it.
Okay, yeah, no, that one's still there. Yep.
And that's
not coming down. No, that's staying.
Ooh, gotcha. So this is going to be between the house and the carriage house, between the driveway. Okay, I think I appreciate that. Okay. And that's all. I was just trying to get points of reference. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So then for myself, you know, I'm going to second, you know, Mary's stream of thought. It'd be nice to see everything sort of put together and, you know, just make sure that what we think we're looking at and what we know we're looking at are the same thing. But again, as Mary said, there's not much here for me to make a fuss about. It's just, you know, making sure the plans line up. So then, Sam, let me give you a chance to chime in here. Anything you want to add?
Nope, I have been out there. I went out, I can't quite remember when. It might have been sometime in September or late August. And it does, the patio that's shown kind of over in this area, it does kind of go right up to sort of the edge from what I could tell of the, you know, kind of where it drops off here. So it does get pretty close, but I didn't have too many concerns. I think the main concern would have been the paving, but it doesn't sound like anyone is too worried about that. But other than that, I was all set with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, to the point about paving, that, you know, the neighborhood over there is fairly wet, and I presume that the Hoffmans have had some conversations amongst themselves about, you know, the pros and cons of paving and water over there. Yeah, that one's not really for me much of a thing right now. So Christina, did that all come through? Did that all make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think that if you wanted our landscape designer to sketch out that plan onto this existing conditions plans, we're happy to do that. And yeah, we can add in a boundary of, we'll just hand sketch on also a boundary of land subject to coastal storm flowage and coastal.
Sorry, you cut out there at the end.
Sure, we can give you a plan. We can have our landscape architect sketch on that plan onto this existing conditions plan. And
Great.
a coastal bank boundary and a land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Beautiful. So then let's, what's the, everybody's feeling here? I presume that the course of action is we'll continue this, have a look at the plans again, and then, vote next time. Does anybody want to offer or?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest a motion to approve tonight with the conditions that you and other members put on there about the overlay of the landscape plan on this plan, subject to that, and we allow the conservation agent to make sure that that is in fact the case before the actual document is issued.
Anybody want to second that? All right, I don't think we got any takers on this one.
This is Frank. I'm not sure I understand, Brad, what you're suggesting.
I'm suggesting that we vote on it this evening, seeing as the only condition is the addition of the landscape plan onto this existing condition plan. Short of that, I have not heard of any other objections. And it seems a little onerous to me to make this petitioner wait a whole nother meeting before we issue a approval on this on a plan that they've actually submitted. It's just a matter of documenting it on another plan.
Well, so Brad, technical standpoint, there's a little bit more going on.
Brian, you're cutting out. I can't hear every other word you're saying.
Hold on a second, Mary. I'm gonna mute you because I think it might be feedback from your phone.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
All right.
that was her.
Yeah.
So Brad, there's a little bit more going on than just that. And, to oversimplify, the observation that Mary made, that we don't know where the coastal bank aligns with the proposal, the proposed work. The coastal bank is a resource area. And
yeah,
so
I understand that, Brian.
Yeah,
no, I understand that.
Stay out of the resource area, and that's not a decision for Sam. Like that sort of goes above her pay grade to allow Sam to decide whether or not the plans and the resource area, are interacting with each other. And so that has to come back through us. So it's not a formality. It's that we need to, as the commission, make sure that the resource areas are being, displayed and demarcated and interacted with and all these other, adjectives. We need to make sure that we are tracking on that. And so, nobody's saying that the project itself has anything going on, and for the Hoffman Center moving like half a dozen plants and maybe a few flagstones, it won't change their project. And, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm also pretty sure that that's a spring job. So we're not actually holding them up. They have heard from us that there's nothing that we see that would concern things other than the plan sets. And so the paperwork maybe goes slower, but, they're free to move forward with their own, conversations with the landscape architect and the ground crews and whoever they want to bring in. So, I don't think we're getting in the way and slowing them down. And I don't think that it would be irresponsible choice for this body to, basically not do their job.
Mr. Chairman,
it's-
thank you.
it's about-
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the explanation, but I respectfully disagree.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so then moving on then. What does the board want to do? And obviously, Christina, does that all sound okay to you? Does that make sense? Am I speaking out of turn with your schedule and your plans and all that?
So yeah, I mean, I think I would say that I would agree with Brad, actually, that it sounds like it makes sense to actually, approve this with the condition that we give you the plan, before you ultimately issue the order of conditions. I guess that is, I would just put my opinion out there, that seems like a reasonable approach. But I am certainly willing to, have that plan submitted to you. And yeah, I think that it really depends on how this winter goes in terms of when we would start construction.
Fair enough. Yeah, not much of a winter yet. All right. Dan, I see you waving. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also think it would be helpful. We typically have the erosion control on the plan. So that might be something else to add. And just, when the drawing proves out that the work you want to do is kind of above where it starts to roll off there, I mean, I think that's what we're looking at. Just have that back far enough that it's in the flat part of the site there and not where it starts to roll down. At least for me.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And I think that where it does start to roll down, those stones are going to be repositioned. So that is, that can be shown on the drawing for sure.
All right, thank you.
So then at this point, anybody want to put a motion on the table or another motion, I suppose?
So I would suggest we continue this to our next meeting, which would be, Sam?
February 1st.
And that might hopefully give enough time to get all the final details of the, drawings complete and everything in order.
Second.
We'll probably
Okay.
be able to do that in a week or so.
For a second, roll call. Brad,
No,
Dan's not in it. Dan,
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
We'll do Pete, and then Sam, can you turn Mary back on so she can vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Pete.
Mary has to unmute herself. I can't unmute her.
Is it toggle
No.
6 or toggle 9?
Yes, I vote yes as well, and I'm gonna have to step out for the next meeting, just so you know.
Okay, thanks, Mary. And then also going to vote in the affirmative. So then, yeah, we'll just get those plans squared out, and then we can do, we'll do the formality on the 1st. But, I think what you heard here is that nobody's throwing any flags or, we don't have any real questions. So that's good at least.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, what? Yeah.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
I did get a call from one of the guys at Meridian today. They need to be out of here by 8:30. Can we bump Governors up to right now just to make sure that they can get through theirs in time?
I mean, unless somebody wants to offer an objection, I don't see any reason why we can't. Going once, going twice. All right, let's move into that discussion item real quick, take it out of order. Governor's Academy, this is a 313 Newburyport Turnpike. We're looking at a modification to DEP number 050-1264. Minor modifications to an issued order of conditions to construct an environmental studies building and appurtenances. I'm sure I butchered that. All right, so who's here from Meridian?
Hi, this is Drew Garvin. Thanks, Samantha, for putting the good word in for me. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm representing Meridian. Since our initial meeting, if you recall, I think the main request, yeah, that'd be great if you're going to share that. It was determined that this is a minor modification, and you were looking for some details on what is now going to be a raised boardwalk from the back of the proposed building down to Parker River. So here's the detail sheet showing the pilings and the truss system that go into the ground. We did talk to the structural consultant, and they were thinking that these would be spaced every 15 feet, the pilings into the ground, the footings into the ground. And that's along about a 500-foot pathway that meanders down there. I didn't do the math on how many pilings that was, but I could certainly do that. And I also provided a sheet just showing some additional soil erosion, just in the form of a simple silt sock on the downhill side of where they would be installing those pilings, on the downhill side of that, and behind the building as well, going down to the river just to help protect that slope, as well as some along the right side, the eastern side of the construction, the downhill side of the construction, just to further protect any resource areas downstream of the work. So those are the main changes. Happy to take questions or.
Sam, do you have a locus plan as to where this shows a bigger view?
Don't think we have, actually it might be, no, it probably wouldn't be in that.
I might be able to call something up. Hold on a second.
I can blow this up big enough that you can really see it, but you can kind of see the, oops, sort of street names of where it's located.
Oh, yes, right. Thank you. From the
Off
cover
Middle
sheet.
Road right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those under the that dot that the site is pointing to, that's the maintenance buildings. And I should mention that Tom Woodruff is here as well from the school, from the Governor's Academy, who is in charge of the facilities. That's the maintenance building. So yeah, the building, the proposed building, you can see is right midline, but yeah, exactly, between there and the Parker River.
Thank you.
All right. So, as we're exploring this, I want to, Dan, I know this is something you were paying attention to a lot at the last meeting. So if you want to sort of jump in early and, just converse with Drew a little bit, I just want to sort of put that on the table to get you on the, get you in the front of the line here.
I can start if you want. Basically, I did have some questions about erosion control. I did read the notes. The notes are quite extensive. I think what we're talking about here goes a long ways towards kind of removing some of this uncertainty with the initial display of the erosion control. Erosion control, there was a note there about a erosion control inspector. And I'm wondering how that really works and who do they report to and how often and.
Sure. A job like this, sorry if I interrupted, but a job like this where you disturb, I'm not sure you guys are familiar with the SWIP. They have to file when you disturb more than an acre of land, you have to file what's called a SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. SWPPP, it's easier to say SWIP. So you have to file a SWIP, and as part of that with the Environmental Protection Agency online. And this plan would basically go along with that filing, as well as some generic report documents. And there's a requirement to have someone inspect the site that we designate, that the school would designate. Every time there's a storm over like a half an inch of rain, you have to check the site. Any if there's any new work, any disturbed area, you have to make sure that it's stabilized and kind of keep the documents on that. So that's part of the DEP/EPA requirements for anything you do over an acre, which the site would apply to this site.
And if I could add to that as well, when we do get pretty much any significant rain event that could, potentially cause any washouts or anything, any issues with erosion, I always go out and I make rounds for all job sites that are active to make sure that everything is all set. And I know Joe Sawarka, who is the engineer consultant for the planning board, does that as well to check on active job sites.
Yeah, it's fairly common. It's something that I personally do myself, that I've done on many projects. And you do work with the conservation agent and whoever else the town may want to have as representation for this. And because we can put it on paper, but there's always kind of some unique situations that happen during construction, and you have to kind of go on the fly a little bit and address, if there is a specific concern that was unexpected. We always collaborate with the town and the contractor and make sure things are in order. So there's no issues.
Yep. And hi, Tom Woodruff here from Governors. The construction firm that'll be building the building and developing the site, their project superintendent will be on site daily, and we will include the order of conditions in the contract documents with them. They have the draft or the order of conditions from 2018 already, and they're expecting an updated one once we receive the minor amendment.
Well, that answers a lot of questions. I think really I was, trying to find out if this was going to give Sam a little bit more time. It might have to be out there quite a bit checking on things. Would it be out of place to have a condition that or add? We're just doing a modification, so I don't know if we can add conditions, but I'd like to see those reports, coming to the town. There's nothing that at this point that really specifies that, I don't think. But that's, I don't know how to make that happen.
We could probably add that into the letter, because last time we talked about that since it's a minor modification, we would just issue a letter stating that the new plans had been accepted, and get a title block and everything for the plans.
Yeah.
I think we could add the condition into the letter
Yeah.
to require the inspection report.
And there's absolutely no, I'm assuming Tom has no problem with that. I think that's fairly, again, something we've done on other jobs, and that would not be a problem on our end.
I don't see a problem with that.
All right, couple of questions. I think I briefly asked questions last time about access. You have limits of work that just sort of follow this elevated walkway down the hill. But is that the way you're really going to access the site? And just sort of two limited work questions are you gonna be going overland to get to this, the narrow area where the work is gonna take place? Also, the piping that goes down the hill, there's no limit of work for that, and I'm just kind of wondering how that plays out.
Yeah, you're right. That was, the limited work should include, I suppose, the trench for that piping going straight down. But to answer your question on I'm not going to be constructing it, so I'm not exactly sure, but my guess would be this boardwalk, it would go along basically the corridor of the limit of work that we're showing, roughly, just to put it in each pile as they go. Because it's not going to be, and I don't know what the machine is going to be that's going to require the piling, but I can't imagine we're not talking about, foundations and deep footings. So I would think it could be a rig that could kind of travel down that walkway, and it does kind of go parallel with the contour, so you're not going straight down the hill. You are running sideways for the most part. So it might end up coming both ways from the, there would be a clearing for the proposed buildings. That would be a good starting point, a level starting point of sorts, and to go from the top down as well as come from the bottom up. Go up that existing gravel drive and come from the bottom up as well. But I can't speak to the more detail than that. It's really just my assumption, but I would think that would be fully possible.
Yeah, I think Drew is on the money there. I think the equipment that would be used would simply be small skid steer, mini excavator. It wouldn't be used to dig earth other than, 6 inches to get the diamond piers level in the earth before driving the pins in. It's not major excavation. It's really just getting materials there, and the rest of it is handwork. So I think the limit of work is reasonably accurate to what will be done.
Okay. I'm not sure that will end up that way, but that's fine if you want to leave the limit of work what it is. So when the dock's being constructed, what's the access to bring concrete and stuff like that in?
I assume that will be the existing gravel road of sorts.
So the pathway is going to be active. You're coming in from Middle Road with fairly large equipment, or you're not going to bring a cement truck in there, are you?
Again, I have not, I'd have to see the detail. No, what's the concrete? Is this extensive? I'm sorry about the dock. I really didn't give too much thought.
Yeah, this was the dock was put through in another.
Right.
Dan, hold on.
But the access would be the gravel pathway, and it would, a concrete truck would not make it down that path. So it would be there. When we discussed it, this was back in 2018 or so. I recall discussing using one of those, a cement trailer, mixer trailer that you can rent for the day to bring down there, something like that. It wouldn't be, a cement truck would not make it down that path, period. But that would be access for the dock.
Yeah, I'm just, back to the erosion control. Would it make sense to have erosion control anywhere there's activity on that gravel path? There may be some overflow, spillage, who knows? That's just a thought. And
hey, Dan, hold on a second. I just feel like we might be redoing this conversation. I feel like we've had this chat the last time, and if we can sort of stick to the amendments that they brought to the table today, in theory, we took care of all this stuff already.
Okay. The only other thing if I can have another moment, is I know this is going to go in front of the planning board, and you know, the stormwater report seems to be revised. I don't know how much it's revised. I don't know if that's in our wheelhouse or not, but you know, it might make some sense to, you know, continue this hearing until we know what happens at the site plan review modification meeting hearing.
And that's, I guess that's fine. I don't know what how Tom feels about that, but you know, usually that we have it conditional upon that approval on these type of things. I can just to speak to the stormwater report. The overall disturbance was less, and the flow was reduced. Just speaking in broad terms, the runoff was reduced from what was originally approved back in 2018. So again, and I'm sure you spoke at the last meeting about, you know, this path specifically, you know, just changing that from a stone dust path to a raised boardwalk, and maybe we didn't half the distance, but we considerably lessened the distance of that path, made a huge difference to the stormwater runoff created and proposed in that stormwater report, so that, you know, the conditions were greatly improved from what was previously approved.
Yeah, I thought there was some changes to the building, and there possibly could be some changes to the drainage around the building.
There was, that was fairly, I think, minor in the overall picture as far as the stormwater is related. I don't think that changed the drainage patterns anything significantly. I think the path was the main contributor to those improvements.
All right, I've had enough here, I guess.
Okay, and then just Dan, to your point about the erosion control on the bottom road, Sam, in the conditions that we have, I've got a recollection that we addressed that. Is that true?
Address to get the inspection reports.
No, the placement of erosion controls along the path at the bottom of the slope.
I don't remember any additional conditions from last time, but we can add some.
Are you saying where it meets the gravel road? Did we change some things? Brian, what is your question?
Oh no, it was just a recollection. Daniel was, you know, asking about that bottom, the path at the bottom of the slope, and I thought I remembered that we did do the erosion control at the bottom, and it's that, oh yeah, the hard line.
Yeah, that's it.
There, right?
Yes, and that's always been there. I didn't even add that. That's been there all along.
Right. So then, so Dan, your point being, you know, the areas where work will be going on, you know, there's not erosion control along the entire pathway, but there is erosion control in the work area.
Right.
So.
I mean, if, you know, it depends on equipment coming in. If you're coming in from Middle Road, you know, you may have to improve the path a little bit or fill some holes or whatever. There may be stuff moving around there.
All right. Well, I think this is something that, you know, Sam can do spot checks on if she sees any areas that, you know, maybe aren't holding up. You know, she can do those, add things there on the fly. And I'm sure the, you know, the applicant, you know, isn't interested in, you know, any washouts either. So let's turn back to the alphabetical order from the top. So Ben, you wanna go?
Yep. I only have one comment. I agree with Dan that the notes attached to the erosion control plan were really helpful. Thank you. My only, I guess, comment or question for the rest of the commission is that note 10 is the contractor shall be responsible for removal of all siltation controls. The contractor shall not remove any siltation controls until authorized in writing by the owner of their representative. And I would just propose, if the commission thinks it's smart, given the sensitivity of the area, to change the authorization for removing of siltation from the owner or representative to the conservation agent.
Okay. Cool.
Maybe
And
and.
then in that, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe do and, not either or, but both.
That's a good point, Drew. Yep.
Okay, that sounds reasonable to me. All right, so that's it, Ben?
Yep, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, Brad? Brad, you got anything on this one?
I'm good, thank you.
Frank?
I'm fine. I'm good.
Okay, and Peter?
No, just let you know that the submission to planning was our last meeting, and the public hearing will be opened on the 17th or the 19th, whatever that Wednesday,
19th.
the 19th.
It's the 19th.
And between now and then, stuff will, peer review will begin and all that sort of stuff. So to answer your concern, Dan, with regards to Joseph Walkham and it continuing.
Okay, thank you, Pete. From my own perspective, I've got nothing else to add other than, yeah, Sam, if you could, when things do get rolling, keep an eye on that lower slope area and, yeah, it's fine. Just make sure you go when it rains.
Yes.
But yeah, otherwise I'm content with, I think Ben's suggestion was good. So Ben, I think that I'm queuing you up to make a motion then.
What are we actually calling this in? I would move that we grant a modification to the order of conditions with the additional conditions regarding erosion and control and notes that we mentioned in the prior meeting and this meeting.
All right, that's a first. We need a second.
I'll second, just for clarification, they wouldn't be conditions, they'd be more mentioned in your letter. Would that be right, Sam?
Right.
Okay.
Okay, first and second, roll call. Ben,
Aye.
Brad,
I,
Dan,
Yes,
Frank,
Yes,
and Peter.
Yes.
I'm also voting yes. And just as I skip over Mary, Sam, give us a heads up if and when Mary reappears, would you?
Yes.
Cool. And I'm being remiss, I jumped over the public comment. Was anybody here on this one? Remembering after the vote, which is a bit ridiculous, but just in case.
Do not see any hands going up.
Okay, great. So then it looks like we're good here.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you moving me
All right.
up in the time too. That was a big help. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Good thing. Good night, guys. All right, so then returning to our public hearing. Next up in the public hearing queue, we've got Renee Dumont at 141 Northern Boulevard. A notice of intent for the installation of a patio driveway resurfacing and landscaping improvements, which is exactly what we did on 21 March. Is this really the same thing? Sam, is that a typo or are we doing the exact same?
Nope, it is pretty much the same thing. I actually didn't even notice that it was exactly the same as the one in front of it.
Okay, and do they have a DEP number?
This one does not have a DEP number yet.
All right. So then for the Dumonts, who is here?
Hi, this is Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental. And I'm here on behalf of Renee Dumont and Richard Neal, who also is a part owner of the property. So if I can share my screen, what I can do is just walk you through the project. Now, to clarify that there is a patio involved, but it also is, it is also an upward addition of a house and removal of a sunroom on the front of the house. But the work that is actually on the ground is, as you'll see, is really pretty accurately described, similar to the other project. So this is the site, 141 Northern Boulevard. It is in the sort of area that I think of as suburban sand dune, sort of really well-developed lots, or, you know, right up against each other in kind of the heart of the dune. And this is in one of the rare areas that is not within the floodplain in the town of Newbury in the coastal dune. So this is a site, front yard, has lawn, has shrubs. You get kind of this worn down area off to the left in the lawn where you do have a little bit of dune grass coming in, but there's also a worn path up to the gate in the fence here. There's a little bit of vegetation right along the property line over there. Paved driveway, which you can see here. And then the side and backyard is sort of well-worn dune. There's a little bit of a patio area that's kind of in here. It is shown on the plans. It doesn't show up well on the photos. This is a full foundation with a full basement. And there's a storage area and an entry into that basement right here on the back, as well as the internal entry. This is one of those few projects where the architecturals kind of tell the story best, as opposed to the site plan. So you can see this is the front of the house with the existing sunroom, and there's currently a set of stairs off on the driveway side. So the access into the house is up through those stairs and through the sunroom. On the back, this is that sort of storage bulkhead entry area on the back of the house. Again, here's that sunroom. And then this is a proposed condition. It's an upward addition, a deck that is within the existing footprint, and we're removing that that sunroom off the front and creating sort of a real central front door, moving the stairs around to the front. So when you look at the site plan, what that means is we're reducing the building footprint, removing the sunroom, and then instead of having a path up to the area, we're removing those landscape shrubs. And then within the existing lawn area, we're creating a patio area that creates a walkway. So if you're coming from the street up the drive, you can kind of get over to the door. If you're coming out of the garage, again, you're kind of coming, I'm sorry, out of the paved drive, you're kind of coming into the stairs up this way. And then we tried to kind of create an actual shaped path so that what's happening now is as you come out of the gate, you're kind of randomly trampling, and we're trying to just kind of create more of a flow for the foot traffic that's leaving the gate in that back fence. It's really pretty straightforward. It's not in the floodplain. There's really not a lot of dune function going on here, especially in this portion of the site where, you know, you've got well-maintained lawn, you got a paved driveway, you got a full foundation in the basement. We show the dumpster location right here in this pink outline. And then contractors will be able to park mostly in the existing driveway. There may also be some parking in the lawn area up in here and in the area kind of directly in front of the house, if, you know, as needed. But this area is going to get kind of chewed up with the removal of the sunroom anyway. So with that, it's a second floor addition, removal of a portion of the house, or actually shrinking footprint, and then converting lawn to what I think of as a more functional dune surface, which is the crushed shell. So with that, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Let's go around the horn. Benjamin?
I don't think I have anything at this moment.
Okay. Brad?
Thank you, Ben. Brian, thank you. Tom, where you show the proposed second floor addition
Yep.
above existing footprint, the proposed roof deck, that is still part of the existing
Yes.
footprint? So
Yes.
that is not added.
Right. So if you look at, this is the existing house.
Yep, got it.
And
I'm familiar
yeah.
with the property. Yep,
so if you take a look, this is the existing house here. And if you notice, those dimensions don't change. It just totally changes the look of the house.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
You know,
Understood.
it's a nice little design to really,
And as I
everything.
thanks, Tom. And as I recall, the driveway and 52nd Street are kind of one and the same right there, right?
the pavement merges.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you want to paint the property line on the.
Yeah,
drive,
there's
you know.
no line of demarcation there, that's for sure.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Daniel?
No questions.
Okay. Frank
No, no questions.
and Peter?
No questions, thanks.
Okay. I'm just studying a little bit. I don't know, Tom. You may have pulled it off here. Nobody has any questions for you, it seems like.
Well, a good plan, a clean NOI, and not being in the floodplain, it all helps.
Ben, did you come up with one? Are you sure we're gonna let him get away with this? No questions for
Well, no,
Tom?
I mean, my one hesitation about doing anything tonight, given our track record, is that Sam, DEP just issued a number on this week.
No, this one does not have a number yet.
Yep.
At least not as of like 3 p.m. today.
All right, so this doesn't have a number, and we haven't, I would say that.
Right, so I believe this cannot be closed
No,
without.
it can't be closed, and it would be unwise of us to close it without allowing like a week or so after the number to get the comments, because what we've seen is that there's often a lag. Getting a number is getting a number. That doesn't mean that they have comments processed yet. And I think that there's areas of town we could safely do this in, but that Plum Island is not one of those areas of town.
With that, I respect your opinion on that. I do want to note that not being in the floodplain and being in this section of Plum Island, DEP rarely has any comments except about plan adequacy.
Yeah, we're still within 12 months of getting several wrist slaps from DEP about this.
Yeah, I understand, but as a former member of a commission and former staff of commission, DEP every once in a while sends out an email reminding commissions that they're not supposed to hold up a decision waiting for comments. In some locations, I absolutely agree with you, and I think it makes sense to wait for the comments, and it saves the applicant time. But regardless, I think we need to continue to the February 1st, and which is your next meeting, right?
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
that,
So by then, I mean, we should have a number within a week, I would think, and that gives plenty of time for comments. What I want to make absolutely sure of is if anybody has any concerns or anything tonight, is that we just know what they are. So we have between now and that meeting to address them. If we really have no comments, then that would be great. We'll just come into the next meeting, and assuming we've got clean DEP number and no comments, we just close out an issue at that point.
Yeah.
Did Mary send you anything
Tom,
on this one, Sam? Did Mary have any comments she sent you on this?
she did not. The only thing I got from her was for 21 Marsh.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, the only thing that is catching my eye, and it has nothing to do with the plan, it's just, when the roses that are listed, I just keep thinking they're multi-floor rows, and, so they make me nervous, but it has nothing to do with the actual plan set. That's just my own twitchiness about invasive species.
Yeah, no, it's Virginia Rose, Rosa virginiana, which is a native rose. And I would say actually, Rosa rugosa is a great plant. It's just not native. So calling for the Virginiana makes sense. So that is a native one, and it should do well there, and it kind of is a nice plant to put in and provide a little bit of wildlife and dune function, but also have it look aesthetically like a landscape plant at the same time.
Right. And, as I said, it's not an actual issue. It's just me twitching when I see roses. But yeah, so I think let's see what, when you get your number, and if something happens and they're backed up and you don't hear about a number by the next meeting, we'll just, ask Sam for continuance and we'll get you in as soon as we got a number.
Okay.
And,
Can we also make
yeah.
sure there aren't any neighbor issues or questions or anything?
Yeah, good reminder. Thank you. Anybody in the audience for this one? Going once, going twice.
I'm not seeing any hands up.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, so I'll stop sharing. With that, I thank the commission for the time. And what I'd like to do, actually, yeah. So with that, I guess what I would do is I'll ask for a continuance to February 1st. And if we get the comments in time, if we can just try to get the order issued as soon as possible after the 1st, that would be great. They are kind of chomping at the bit to get going on this.
I'll move to continue till February 1st at 7 p.m.
Second,
All right, roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Brad,
aye.
Dan,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
And I will also vote yes.
All right.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
You too. Next up, in our public hearings, we have Peter J. La Riviere at 7 and 17 Marsh Avenue, DP 050-1374, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to confirm boundaries and any associated buffer zones for wetland resources on site. So Sam, I believe you informed me there is a continuance on this one.
Yep, we did receive a formal continuance request from Sam Colombo. To
And
the,
is that to the first or to the meeting after?
Nope, that's to February 1st.
Okay,
I'll move to continue till February 1st.
Second.
thank you, thank you. Roll call, Benjamin,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Dan,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes.
I will also vote yes. All right, next up, we've got Michael Kirkpatrick at 8 12th Street, DP 050-1369, a notice of intent to construct a shed on pilings. This is continued from October 19th of last year. All right, so Mr. Kirkpatrick, is he here?
Yes, he is.
Hey, all right. So, Sam, do you want to update us, or do you want to let Mr. Kirkpatrick lead on this one?
Yep, I can do kind of a quick and dirty. So we did get these two new plans from Mike. So this one, they're both pretty much the same thing, kind of showing a little bit more clearly where the shed is going to go on the property. And I believe, Mike, you said these were sent to DEP as well, right?
Yes.
Yep. So, and we, as far as I am aware, have not received any additional comments from DEP. This is getting ready to go in front of zoning at the moment. I believe last I heard is that this was going on to the zoning meeting on the 20th of this month. And it will hopefully be all set after that. But it has not actually gone in front of zoning yet. But that is all I have new for this one. I actually, when I did the COC inspection for the old order conditions from this property before the last meeting, I saw there are some stakes out on the property that show where the shed is going to be. And it looks very close on the plans. It looks like it's very close to kind of the property line and everything, but I've spoken to Peter Vanette, the building commissioner, and Mike is aware of the property line setbacks. He's aware of the setbacks from the house and everything. So that is all set. Not that that's a concern, but he is all set from the building side. It won't need a building permit because the shed's small enough. So really the only thing that we're waiting on right now is the zoning and the zoning is just for lot coverage. I believe right now the property is at 28% lot coverage and the addition of the shed will bring it up to 30%. So that's the only thing that we're really waiting on right now.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. So then, Mr. Kirkpatrick, do you want to add anything into that?
No, it's just that I talked to the zoning board today and they sent the information to the newspaper for the newspaper articles that'll be going in either tomorrow or Thursday, and then a week after they'll post it again. And then I'm gonna send the letters. They'll send me a thing back that I have to send to the abutters, and that's what we're waiting on now.
Okay. So then let's turn to the commission. Benjamin.
Nope.
Okay. Brad.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Daniel.
All set.
Frank.
All set.
And Peter.
No questions.
Okay. Sam, do we have any concerns that DEP might want more out of the plans that were submitted?
I don't think so. The plans that we have here are engineered plans. They just don't have the title block on it, but they are.
Right.
I can guarantee you they are engineered plans. They are all set. And I think with all of the other information that's been provided, with like the schematics and everything for the shed itself, that we have in here somewhere. I think not that one. Sorry. I think with all of the plans that we have, I believe they should have enough information, and they have had these plans for I think since September or October, maybe. They've had these plans for quite a while. So, sorry, it wouldn't have been September. I think they've had these since October. So if we have not gotten any comments from them by now, I doubt we're going to.
Okay. That's the only observation I have, that, normally we have a site plan style and this one, is more architectural. But as it's for a shed, that might just, we don't really need the whole site for a shed. Okay, well, with that comment, I'm okay. And I see a phone number on the side. Is Mary return, or is that a different?
That's Frank.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So then at that point, who wants to do what?
I'll make a motion to grant an order of conditions with the standard Plum Island conditions and an additional that approval does not occur until after ZBA signs off.
Second,
Okay, roll call. Ben,
Yes.
Brad,
aye.
Dan,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also voting yes. So there we go. And then assuming nothing else trips you up, Mr. Kirkpatrick, you got us out of your hair at least.
All right.
All right, very good. And I did it again. I didn't check the.
No, there's
but-
nobody.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think I'm safe.
We don't even have anybody else here, so.
I checked for
Think
you,
we're
Brian.
good.
I was on it. I was ready to stop you, and I was like, nope, there's nobody here.
Thanks, guys, man. All right, well then, great. Let's move on to the next thing.
Have a good night,
Thanks,
Mr.
Mike.
Kirkpatrick.
All right, thank you much.
Good night. The last item on our ridiculously fast evening tonight, we have Michael McNiff at 170 Richard Street, DP number 050-1254. This is a request to extend the order of resource area delineation that confirmed accurate delineation for bordering vegetated wetlands and a 200-foot riverfront area. So Mr. McNiff and or representative are not here, obviously. So Sam, why don't you introduce everybody?
All right, so this, give me one second, is a project that's obviously come up before. It was an ORAD that was issued, I believe, in October of 2018. They do meet the requirement, and it was extended. I believe as of right now, the ORAD expires January 25th, and they did meet the deadline to get the extension request in. It got kind of extended due to the tolling from COVID-19. So they're all set with that. And we do have, just because I know there was some kind of back and forth as to whether an ORAD can actually be extended. And it can. I did get confirmation on that from our wetland circuit rider at DEP. Goes through the same process as an order of conditions would. The big thing with that is that there's a requirement in the WPA regs that the applicant would have to submit a letter from a wetland scientist stating that the conditions have not changed. And just in case anybody did not get a chance to see it when I put it in, I think maybe yesterday, we did get a letter from Bill Manuel stating that he did a site visit on, I think he said on December 30th, maybe. And he did confirm that nothing has changed out there and that he believes it is all set. So we do have the written confirmation there. Really the only reason that a commission would have to deny an extension like this, according to DEP, would be if the conditions have in fact changed. So, and I don't know if any of you guys might be interested in doing a site walk with Bill Manuel and the developer before you grant an extension or not. Now that we've received the request, we do have time to do that. But that would be entirely up to you guys.
Great. That sounds perfect, Sam. I know personally I'd be interested in a site walk. Dan, do you remember this one?
Yes, I do. I don't think it was too controversial from a delineation standpoint. You know, it is adjacent to Pearson Drive, so, you know, but there's no project associated with it now. So to me, I'd be quite happy to vote on it tonight.
Okay. Anybody else interested in a site walk other than myself? And presumably Mary?
I would do it if we had one. I did, Sam, I think just mistakenly said 2018. It was October 2017.
Yes, sorry.
No worries. And then I did notice that in the site plans, for some reason, the submitted plans for this, it's listed as 168 Orchard as not 170, which was odd.
Are there two lots there, Ben?
168 appears to be the next lot to the west, and it was existing. It wasn't like it's been subdivided off since then, as far as I could tell, Brad.
But are they owned by the same people?
I do not know that.
I don't think they are.
I can find out quickly. But if anybody else has a thought, talk while I do that.
Yeah, I don't think they are owned by the same individuals.
Then that sounds like a clerical thing.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing to have, you pay somebody to delineate your wetlands and have it all drawn up and submit a plan and have the wrong address on it.
And presumably they did the right sidewalk. And drew
The
up the right
plans, yeah, no, I mean, the plans seem to show what is on, what this
Existing
application
conditions, yeah.
170 and Melissa Kessler on 168. And Louis Bulgaris as of the last listing on 170. So I don't know what I don't know technically if it matters or not. I'm just bringing it up.
Well, we have time, as Sam just let us know. So, Sam, why don't we put together a site walk, check that clerical error, and then before we approve anything, we can, in a very literal way, cross our I's and dot our T's and make sure we know what address. Did you happen to notice, Ben or Sam, if the lot and parcel at least was the same, even if the number on the road frontage was different?
Ben would probably be able to answer that faster than I can.
Working on it. I did not notice. One second. Parcel 43A. And sorry, I gotta jump between the screens. The map and parcel number is correct on the applicant, and right. So the surveyor's plan lists 168, but the application for the ANRAD lists the correct map and parcel.
Good. I mean, arguably that's more important anyway.
I would concur.
So Sam, you want to go for a walk? Maybe we'll see if Mary wants to come along, and see if Mr. Emanuel wants to come along, and presuming nobody's got any, overriding reason to do it tonight. I'm glad to hear that Dan feels like it was an easy, straightforward, simple one from his memory. So that's reassuring.
Bring your mud boots.
Yes.
I have
Or we
walked.
go midweek next week and it'll all be frozen solid.
If you go next Wednesday, it will be.
Yeah.
Does anybody know when Mary is actually leaving, so we can? She's not leaving until. No one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. I'll reach out to her first. Brian, are there any particular days of the week or dates that do not work for you?
Wednesday, Thursday, weekends are out.
Okay. So Monday or Tuesday would be.
Monday, Tuesday, if we could do it as a morning thing, the way we did that site walk out on Marsh, I think that'd be good.
Okay.
But yeah, check with Mary, we'll see.
Okay. All right. I will reach out to Mary and Bill and get something set up for that. before February
Cool.
1st.
All right, well then, we need to vote on this for continuance.
No, that one does not need, it's not a hearing, so it doesn't need a vote. I think as
Okay.
long as we're all set with that one, unless anybody else has anything pressing for that. I looked to see if I had the pretty copy of the bylaw document that we talked about yesterday. And I do not, because I saved it on my desktop at work and not in my Dropbox. So I don't know, Brad, if you have that up. I know I sent it to you, or Frank. I know I
So,
sent
Sam,
that
hold on
to
a
you
second.
guys.
You just kind of slid really easily into something new. But let's do an introductory section and.
Oh, right. Sorry. So we have a document that Ben and Mary had worked on that kind of outlines why the bylaw amendments are happening in the first place. It is a very good document. I found it buried in some obscure part of my computer that probably hasn't been touched in months. It is a very cool document. I sent it to Brad and Frank first,
I saw it.
as our new members, to see if they had anything fresh eyes wise that they saw that maybe needed some more explanation, or that something that was maybe left out that they think could have used an explanation. I don't know if either of you had any comments on that.
Yeah,
and I can bring up the document real quick so we can all.
One suggestion is to take some of the passion out of it, is I would remove the picture of Plum Island that you have in that document.
Okay, this
because
one
that-
does not have the pictures on it, so.
Okay, the one that you sent me did.
Yeah, I saved that one on my desktop by accident.
Okay,
But yeah, it did have a couple pictures in it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of break up the writing.
right. That was one of the first things that I saw on this, and I'm anxious to see what the feedback from the public is on this.
Okay, but from your perspective, it just needs the pictures, right? I mean, the language, the write-up, nothing caught your eye.
Nope.
Cool. Did it feel clearly communicated? You didn't have any hanging questions, or, I mean.
And the only
great.
question, Brian, the only question I would have is if I was a resident not on Plum Island, I don't know is the argument as to why is really there strong enough. I think you make it clear, but I don't know if this is going to sell the rest of the town that it is somebody who does not understand all of the implications of this might not necessarly be on board. And
Great, that's fantastic feedback.
like I said, I'm interested to see what the public feedback is.
Cool. No, that's great. That's that's a tweak we can kick around for sure. Frank, did anything catch your eye?
Hold on, I'm muted.
I heard that.
Sorry, I thought I was muted. I just don't see a lot of difference between this and the existing state Wetland Protection Act. And I understand the need for protecting the wetland resources, but I don't see what this bylaw really gains us. I understand you're trying to provide more clarity, but I just don't see the need for it, to be quite honest.
No, that's okay. I mean, that sounds like the same thing that Brad just said. The sales pitch isn't there, connecting the need with the action. That thread isn't strong. See the way you're seeing it.
I think Frank just said
Yeah.
he doesn't. I don't think Frank said that. I think Frank just said he doesn't think he sees the point in doing this.
Well, yeah,
What
and
I mean by
maybe you're
that
right.
is, look, I understand that we're trying to implement things and that are anticipating a rise in, coastal waters and so on, but this is really more protecting inland waterways, and I think that the state regulations are adequate for that
Yeah,
purpose.
And the only other comment that I would make on this is that it takes away some of the subjectivity that this commission spends an awful lot of time debating. You're making it very much more black and white. So that if somebody, again, we had talked about this before, if there's a checklist, which there is in the application, that you submit all of those things and they meet all of those, then if all those boxes are checked, it's a rubber stamp. Right
I
now,
think
right now, with the WPA, there's a fair amount of subjectivity in there, and that subjectivity is granted to the local conservation commissions. If the tighter you make these bylaws, the less subjectivity there is from the Conservation Commission, the local Conservation Commission.
Can I kind of just throw kind of the way that I look at it out there for a second? So one of the things that I kind of think about often, frequently, is like what happened with Cricket Lane. Cricket Lane was a whole issue of that there was a vernal pool that wasn't a certified vernal pool, but it met much of the criteria for a vernal pool, but because it wasn't certified by the state, we couldn't do anything about it. So it became a whole issue that, quite frankly, dragged that hearing out far, far longer than it should have. Had there been a inland wetland bylaw that gave the commission a little bit more black and white, definitive, like, this is what we can say, this is what we cannot say, these are things that we can protect, these are things that we don't have jurisdiction over protecting. If we have that black and white definitive, it helps to make the process go a lot smoother and a lot faster, and it would kind of, ideally, it would help to eliminate that dragging on of public hearings when, there's a question and there's an argument about whether or not something should be protected or whether or not the commission has any jurisdiction over it, because we all witnessed that happening with Cricket Lane. It was, every single meeting was the same argument over and over and over again, hearing it from the abutters and hearing it from the developer and the attorneys, and it was just constant back and forth. And if we had had that black and white, it could have potentially shortened that argument.
I don't disagree with you, Sam, but I also believe that the appeal process that they are ultimately going to do would have already happened and a decision would have already been made. Probably the same decision that will be made.
I guess, Brad, I think that the subjectivity thing is I mean, it just leads to long meetings because you can call it subjectivity or you can call it like vagueness, which is really what it is. In the end, I think what drove us to do this is that we can say, oh, we're being subjective, and an applicant can say, no, there's nothing saying we can't do this. So, we interpret it this way and they interpret it that way. And, I think at the time we did this, the commission members, all felt that these were there was a limited number of things that were, listed out here really. It was trying to give ourselves an ability to talk about buffer zones, to protect vernal pools and to protect large isolated lands, isolated wetlands.
No,
So those were the few things we thought had value, and that getting subjectivity, vagueness, interpretations out of there and having some hard and fast language for applicants was going to make would make our applicants' lives easier in the end, our meetings quicker, and achieve protection of resources we thought were worth protecting. And I don't know if that's communicated. I don't think that is communicated that clearly here.
It is. In my mind, it is not, and I get you. I understand the reasoning behind this. I completely do. But the more rigid you make those guardrails, you're going to run into projects that we would have liked to have approved, but because of the guardrails that we're now putting on, will not get approved.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's just like everything else in here, there's waivers,
Brian, if I could for a sec.
Go for it, Pete.
Yeah, so we don't have this as an agenda item. So what I'm going to suggest is we reserve any discussion in detail about this as an agenda item. And I think this was just kind of Sam, you just wanted to have this as a informational to say this is out there and just do a kind of a litmus test. But I think if we're going to have a kind of a detailed discussion, let's make that an agenda item, and that way we can have an open discussion comfortably.
I agree.
That's a good observation, Pete. Yes, that did we had a quick update that turned into a discussion, like you said. So good catch. Sam, if I recall right, we have the open meeting law training coming up, and that we're going to sort of double as a conversation about this bylaw, and that is our sort of second meeting in January.
Yep,
right?
so that's gonna be on January 20th at 5 p.m., not 7. So that's a Thursday at 5 p.m. So that's going to be with town council. We're gonna have Lisa Mead there. She's gonna go through the open meeting law training with us first. And then we're gonna have some time towards the end to receive guidance on the sort of more legal aspects of the bylaw amendment, and a chance to hopefully ask some questions and get some clarification on things from the legal side.
And Sam and Peter as well, for the sake of the viewership on the Newbury YouTube channel, that will not be an open meeting, correct? That will be sort of we can hash things out amongst ourselves, or is that an open meeting, that training? How is that all happening?
So it does, because it is a meeting of the majority of the Conservation Commission, it does have to get posted. We'll have an agenda. It'll be an open meeting, so it will be open to the public, but we are closing it to public comment to allow for the commission specifically to get guidance on the amendments of the bylaw, not necessarily to create new things, but to make sure that we have the best possible draft of the bylaw to release to the public for the public workshop that we're planning on holding in February.
Right. And that would be the opportunity to engage in the conversation we just started slipping into.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
does that meeting have bookends?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. It'd be good to try to stay on schedule, obviously. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here till 11 if we're starting at 5.
Yeah.
I believe the open meeting law training, if I recall correctly, when I talked about it with Tracy, It usually lasts about an hour for the actual training itself, and then some time for, clarifying questions and things like that.
So we could then tentatively set a semi-hard stop at 7 PM.
I'd rather set a goal of 7. Can we put it as a goal for 7?
We're saying the same thing, Brian. We're
I
in
don't want to
violent,
interrupt you if you and Ben are, having a meaningful discussion.
we're in violent agreement.
All right, I just think we need to take the time. We need to take the time to go through this, line by line, and just make sure that we all are clear on what the intention is of each, of the wording. Because when I read it, I saw some things that concerned me, but I'm not sure that I was reading it accurately. Does that make sense? I'd
Yeah,
like to
and
get
just,
input from other members, in other words, on how they interpret what it means, because I'm concerned about the way the public might interpret some of it.
Yeah, I think the important, as we said in previous meetings, the important things to remember are that we're not putting any regulations in. And that also makes it hard to talk about because we're not putting specific regulations in, which is typical for bylaw amendments. And then secondly, we're not interested in advancing anything to the public that does not have buy-in from the entire commission. Like, there's no
Okay.
point in that.
Okay.
And Ben, I'm gonna put some words in your mouth, but I'm pretty sure that both Brad and Frank, if you want to get in touch with Mary or Ben or myself individually or anybody else, but by all means, if you don't want to have everybody asking and listening, and you want to get different perspectives, or I know I certainly am happy to spend whatever time you're interested in using to get into the weeds on things, and I think Ben would too, and I expect Mary as well. We're all.
Let's just Brian, but let's double check that that's allowed. It may have to be submitted as a question to Sam, which then gets circulated. So I'm happy to, but I want to make sure that it is done in the appropriate fashion.
Fair enough. Right. Process-wise, fair enough.
Yeah, not until we've had the official training.
Yeah. Pedro, what's up?
Motion to adjourn.
I have one other thing. Sorry. I would love to do that, but I do have one. If we could hold on 1 second. We have an outstanding email from the conservation department about the walkway. I never saw an answer to.
I don't know what you mean.
Wasn't there like last week an email to, I don't think the entire commission was on it, but Sam, Brian, and I were on the status of the Mantor Fields project.
Oh, right.
From Mark Sand. I can't even tell who this email is actually to. It just says, earlier this month, I met with the Conservation Commission seeking approval of a small footbridge, yada, yada. Can you set a time and day? And I think it's to Tracy, but it's like, can you set a day and time that we can meet to discuss the.
So I think, so that was an email that I had received from a resident, I believe of School Street, maybe, that had said that he walked over there frequently and there was some debris, I believe, down by the Boy Scout trail that's at the end of that kind of funky road that's there. So that's not near the
But then there was
footbridge.
another one after that from Mark Sant, right? Or am I missing something?
Yes, and that I think he had forwarded that to Tracy. So I got the initial email and forwarded it to Mark to see if there was anything that he wanted to do about cleaning, getting it cleaned up. And I think the email was directed at Tracy to see if he could meet with her. That was kind of how I read it. And I think he CC'd us on it just as kind of a.
Right. I just see can you set a day and time that we, parenthetical conservation agent, and perhaps a member of the commission can meet to discuss the next steps in advance of the project. So I do agree with you. I think this is to Tracy, but I don't want to leave it hanging out there.
Okay, I can reach out to her tomorrow, and make sure that she saw it, and make sure that she knows that we all think it was meant to be a question for her.
Okay. Pedro,
Oh, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
second.
Okay, roll call. Benjamin,
Yes.
Bradley,
Aye.
Daniel,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
and Peter.
Yes, thank you.
All right, also in the affirmative, and thank you, Pete, for keeping us on the straight and narrow. All right, good night, everybody.
Take it easy.
Thank you, Sam.